The police reports from the period give no indication that they wasted any energy in attempting to track these women to their hillside refuges. Again, however, the local enumerator did try to ensure that the census was not distorted by Hannah Sheehy Skeffington's absence. Unfortunately and amusingly, James Crozier made a bit of a mess of it. Here you can see the return made by Hannah's husband Francis and Crozier's efforts to amend it, in which Hannah Sheehy Skeffington is forced in between the lines, but she's mistakenly, you probably see a bit better there, she's mistakenly named Emily Sheehy Skeffington. As in the case of James' cousins, Francis Sheehy Skeffington enumerated the female servants. While there is clear evidence of an attempt to evade the census on the part of some members of the IWFL, there were suffragettes who were members or associates of that organisation who do not appear to have made any effort to avoid enumeration. Among the women who feature on the census returns for Dublin without the intervention of the enumerator are Cathy Oldham. She was sometime president of the IWFL. There she is here. Perhaps this is not a surprise, as Oldham was among the more moderate members of the organisation. Also enumerated, however, were Kathleen Emerson, Mabel Purser and Maud Lloyd, all of whom would go to prison because of militant action carried out under the IWFL banner in either 1912 or 1913. This may indicate that these women were not yet radicalised in April 1911, or that they disagreed with the census boycott as a form of protest. Maud Lloyd filled in the form herself as a head of household. Perhaps she feared prosecution. In the cases of Emerson, who was she's third on the list here, she was a recently widowed woman who had returned to live with her parents. You can see she's been filled in by her father. And Mabel Purser, this is her return, she's Lucy Mabel Purser. Again, she's filled in by her husband. So perhaps they were enumerated against their will by their father and husband, respectively. In his work on 19th century censuses, as a source for the study of female occupations in Britain, Edward Higgs has illustrated the extent to which men dominated the census-taking process. Men framed the questions, acted as enumerators, processed the information, and perhaps most importantly in this context, men were expected to act as head of household and fill out the form. Even if Purser's husband or Emerson's father was sympathetic to their suffragist views, it is possible that Purser and Emerson acquiesced in their enumeration because they did not want to expose their male relatives to legal sanction. Some of those who were reluctant to boycott the census found other ways to use it as a vehicle of protest. This is the census return of Tom Kettle and his wife Mary Sheehy Kettle. Mary was Hannah Sheehy Skeffington's sister. She regularly appeared on suffragist platforms, and on 6th of April, she spoke at a meeting at Kingstown, now Dunleary, as Dermot said, which was chaired by Mary Earle and addressed by Emmeline Pankhurst. At the meeting, Mary Kettle reportedly said that they had never got anything in Ireland from a hostile government except by militant methods. Yet at first glance, the Kettle census form appears to have been filled out without fuss. A closer examination, however, reveals a modest, if telling, alteration to the form. Tom Kettle, having signed the form, amended this section from signature of the head of household to signature of the heads of the family. This is the return of the Tickle family of 11 Sanford Road, Ranelagh. Mrs. Adeline Tickle appeared on the platform when Emmeline Pankhurst spoke at the Ancient Concert Rooms in Dublin City Centre, also on the 6th of April, when Pankhurst again justified the census protest. As you can see, Adeline Tickle did not boycott the census, but she did make her mark. The last column on the census form provided a space where the head of household was expected to note those in the home who were either deaf and dumb, dumb only, blind, imbecile or idiot, or lunatic. The idea was that the head of household would, quote, write the respective infirmities opposite the name of the afflicted person. In this case, you can see Mrs. Tickle is enumerated as being voteless. You can see it down. Members of the Quaker community tended to disproportionately support female enfranchisement, and here is the return of two Quaker sisters, Josephine and Emily Webb. We can see they filled in the infirmity column with unenfranchised. And finally, this is the return of 21 Annesley Park, the residence of Ellen Jane Bell and her cousin Maud Joint, a suffragist activist. And here you can see again they went for the unenfranchised version. Okay. So what conclusions can we draw as to the impact of the suffragist boycott of the Census of Ireland in 1911? It seems quite clear that the numbers who succeeded in evading enumeration in Ireland were very small indeed. Hannah Sheehy Skeffington recorded in her memoir that our numbers abstaining did not greatly throw out the census figures. At the time, the government was confident this was the case. In Britain, where evasion was more widespread, the president of the local government board could report to Parliament that the number of successful evaders was, quote, altogether negligible. The protest emphasised the divisions within Irish suffragism. Rather than uniting suffragists, as Ward has suggested, it marked a further stage on the road towards full-scale militant activity in Ireland. Although the availability of the census returns reveals that supporters of female suffragism in Ireland utilised the census to protest in a variety of ways beyond the simplest and most extreme form of protest, the boycott. Although numbers involved were small, the suffragists did succeed in drawing a good deal of attention to their cause through the census protest. The government decided not to prosecute those heads of households who had failed to record the details of suffragist protesters. To laughter, the president of the local government board in Britain informed Parliament that in the hour of success, mercy and magnanimity should be shown. And this approach was mirrored by the Irish authorities. A series of court cases, fines and perhaps even imprisonments with attendant publicity would have been welcomed by the militant suffragists, but evidently not by the authorities. The impression that militant suffragism in Ireland was a middle-class pursuit is borne out by the census campaign. All the evidence of the census protest that I have found for Dublin appear in returns from middle-class areas such as Rathgar and Rathmines, while the willingness in the homes of suffragists to enumerate female servants is also suggestive. Finally, the census boycott has the potential for one lingering effect which will concern genealogists more than historians. There may be those out there whose ability to uncover vital information about their female ancestors is permanently circumscribed because these women do not appear in the Census of Ireland of 1911. Thank you.